You ready to do this, Steve?
Let's do it, Spence. Punch it, Chewie!
Welcome to the Fortress of Nerditude podcast, a safe place to talk about all things in nerd and pop culture. I'm Spencer Stapleton, and my co-pilot, as always, is Steve Madura.
Hello, hello!
We're two best friends. Despite being fathers and husbands, we just refuse to grow up. Thank you for joining us. This is episode number 8.
Welcome to our humble fortress, and I believe there is an intruder in our midst. Is that correct, Spence?
Yes, so we have a special guest with us tonight as we record. I'm going to introduce the Luigi to my Mario, my younger brother, Josh Stapleton. Josh, how are you?
I am doing excellent. I am sitting in Spencer's basement in sweatpants wearing a Batman t-shirt, so let's do this.
He resigned you to the basement? Nice.
That's right.
Very nice.
He locked the door
Pretty much
too,
where I
which was
always
kinda
keep
weird.
him.
Is that a fire hazard? There's like the fire marshal's going to shut you down, Spence.
Well, he left some dog food in a little bowl of water and told me not to complain.
He'll be fine. He'll be fine. I've left him with less. Trust me, he'll be fine.
Right. Very cool. Well, cool. Good to have you with us, Josh. That we've been wanting to get you on the show, and it's about time you agreed to our payoff.
Well, yeah, I made sure to tighten my sweatpants very tight so they don't get depantsed during the recording of this podcast. But with you two, I never know.
It really would have to be Brita because Spencer's at the helm, and that would just be weird.
Yeah, Josh, we're glad you're here. I'm always glad when you can do something with us. I've been trying to get you on this podcast since before the podcast started, so I'm glad you're here now. At the beginning of every podcast, I know you know this, but we go over our week. And Josh, you got a lot going on in your life. Why don't you start us off and tell us how your week has been, what is new, and what you are doing with your life right now?
The week's been good. Busy as always. For those who don't know, my wife is basically 9 months pregnant. So when I talked to Spencer about joining on the podcast, I said, okay, as long as Steph doesn't go into labor. And sure enough, yesterday she started having a whole bunch of contractions. And I asked her, I said, so what do you think the likelihood is that we're going to the hospital today? And she said, 70%. So we really thought yesterday was going to be the day. Obviously not. But we're getting prepped and ready for baby number 4.
Do you know, is it a boy or a girl?
It's a boy. It'll be our third boy. Don't ask us what the name is because we have
that is right.
No idea.
So I would like to suggest you name him after me, your older and wiser brother, Spencer. I'm just saying it's a good name. Honor me a little bit. I'm cool with that.
Yeah.
For those at home, there was like 14 seconds of silence there where we had to cut it out.
But we don't know what the name will be. But I wasn't sure if I was going to be here, but I'm glad to be here. Spent the last couple days getting things prepped. A crib that I just barely took down. Gosh, a year ago I was putting back together tonight. So my wife is now also on maternity leave, which was nice to have her home Friday night 'cause she works every Friday night. So we actually were able to go out on a date, which is a rare but fun
What did
occasion.
You guys do?
We just went out to dinner with some friends. It wasn't anything too crazy. As you guys can probably attest, going to like dinner and a movie can get awfully expensive with babysitter costs and all that kind of stuff. So it was just dinner with friends.
I gotta give. I would say I gotta give you some mad props, but I really don't. I gotta give Steph some mad props, being that she's so far into potential labor and you are here.
It is nice when your brother lives 3 minutes away. So I do have the phone right by, and if for some reason she says, "Hey, get over here." It's like, well, it's been fun being on the podcast. Gotta go. But,
no, you will text her and you will say she will wait.
You hold that baby inside.
You squeeze them legs back together, I tell you.
Yeah, I don't think she'd go for that.
If for any reason though, Josh, that does happen, you and Steph are a bigger priority. You just run out the door, and I'll have to come unlock it first, but let you out, and you can go and take care of what you need to take care of. That's priority number one.
We'll have to just CGI you and like Peter Cushing into the rest of the podcast. It'll be fine.
Yeah, you'll be good.
I'll have to get a doggy bag for the food you left me.
Right.
Nice.
It comes in one.
All right, so Steve, how was your week?
My week was good as well. I've actually been battling like a sickness that I feel like, everybody always says, oh, it's kind of going around, but it really is. It's like freaking outbreak here in Chicago. Like 7 out of 10 people I talk to have this it's like the black lung from like a Zoolander. I'm like, got the black lung pop. You were down that one day. So I've been dealing with that. My kids have it. My little daughter Lila, has had a fever for a few days, and so she's dealing with it. And so it's going around. But other than that, it's been good. One of the highlights of my week. So I volunteer with the Boy Scouts in our congregation, and they're doing this thing next weekend called the Klondike, which is basically kind of like an idea.
Oh yeah.
You know it? Okay.
Oh yeah, we're doing ours in like 3 weeks, I think.
Oh really? Okay. So yeah, I didn't know it was a thing, but apparently it's a thing. And for those of you that don't know, it's kind of like a semi-minor mini Iditarod where the boys build a sled, or they have a sled, and then they go around to 7 different stations, and they have to do different things like build a fire, cook, first aid, whatever, all this stuff, and that kind of, and it's a race, so you have to keep in mind the time. So we didn't have a sled, and so we went out and we built one, and last Saturday, we got some skis, took the bindings off, and then from scratch built this sled, and it looks freaking amazing. Like, I was so impressed with these little 12-year-old boys that in 3 hours built this sled that can hold my weight, and yeah. So, and it's funny too, because the boys all actually act as the dogs. So there's one boy that's in the back as the musher, and all the other boys are getting whipped with a bull.
Is that the official title, the musher?
I believe it is actually a musher, like mush. I don't know. I think so. I can't back that up, actually. No, it's probably not. So anyway, so have you ever done it, Josh, Spence? Have you guys ever done? Obviously not the Iditarod because you don't have the endurance, but the Klondike.
What's that supposed to mean? I could have done the Iditarod.
What are you, Iron Will from Disney? Wait, really? Come on.
You said Klondike, and all I've been thinking about for the last couple of minutes is the ice cream bars.
What would you do?
Yeah, right. Josh is like, I did 3 on the way over here.
We have our Klondike coming up in like about 3 weeks, 3 weeks, and we're actually going out to this like outdoor retailer this week and like doing this like seminar with the boys for like how to do some of the things you have to do at each station, and like how to do winter camping, because it's here we've got feet of snow on the ground, and we're going to be up in the mountains, and it's going to be freezing cold. So we're kind of prepping right now for it. We have a sled already built, so we don't have to build one, thankfully.
So in other words, you're like cheating. Is that kind of what you're saying?
No, I'm trying to survive.
Just kidding. It's funny because it's the dead of winter here. It's January, and in Chicago, usually you'd have at least some snow. It's been raining for the past 3 days. It's going to be like 42 degrees the day of the Klondike. So we're going to be like dragging this thing over like gravel and like wood chips. Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
Hey,
so
that sounds great though. I'd take the rain over the snow.
Exactly. You don't have to shovel it. Yeah. So anyway, my week has been really good though, and it's been just busy with work and the normal dad stuff, but good overall. What about you, Spence? How's your week been?
So I've had a really good week. I finally busted open my Google Home device that I got for Christmas, and I know last week we talked a little about the 2 that were being recorded.
Right.
But I opened up mine, and I've set it up, and I'm really happy with it for the most part. The only thing I'm a little disappointed with is it won't play music from my own Google Music library unless I put my music into playlists. It'll play a playlist from my music, but I can't like just name a song and it'll play it. I've been told that functionality is going to be added later. But that was one of the main reasons why I bought it, so I could just, by voice command,
You just call it a
name
song.
Yep.
Yeah.
And so I'm a little disappointed with it. Overall, I'm really liking it. Now, Charlie, my 4-year-old, loves this thing. He comes up to it and he says, "Okay, Google, play DJ Shuffle." I'm like, "Buddy, it won't just play the song." And so I'm trying to walk him through it. And this morning, he was asking it "What sound does a cow make?" And it'll say, "A cow makes the sound moo." And it'll play a music clip of a cow mooing. And when we were leaving, Jackson, my youngest, just kind of waved and he goes, "Bye, Google." And then Charlie says, "Okay, Google, bye, Google." And it's like, "I'm sorry, I don't recognize that command." And he got so sad that it didn't tell him goodbye. He started crying. And I was like, "Buddy, it's okay." He's like, "Google won't say goodbye to me." I'm like, "I'll fix it, buddy. I'll fix it. Let's get going. We got to go to daycare." Trying to shuffle him out the door.
Okay, so I gotta ask,
Yeah.
was this a surprise gift from Brita, or was this
Oh,
something...
no.
Okay.
No.
So-
This was Spencer gifted it to himself at Christmas.
Okay, so, and I don't really know the difference between the Google Home and what's the Amazon one called?
The Echo.
Echo. What made you pick the Google Home one over the Echo?
So I'm a big Android guy and I'm a big Google guy. I mean, I use Google for everything with work and my personal life. So I really wanted it because I can interact with my own calendar on it, and it can read stuff and just interact with my phone that I already have, and it can interact with my Chromecast, which I have on the downstairs TV, and I'm going to move that upstairs so I can just speak to it and say play "What Does the Fox Say" video on YouTube, and it'll pull that up on the Chromecast and show it on the TV. And so just kind of the integration a little bit more. However, the Echo does let you voice command your own music if you have it in the Amazon service. Granted, they've been around for 2 years. Google Home came out in November, but that's why I went with the Google Home, basically, to integrate with what I have.
Does the Google Home work with any other home smart? Does it work with the Nest thermostat? Or?
Yep. Yes. So it does work with my Nest, and I set it up last night, and I commanded it to drop the temperature another 6 degrees, and it did that.
Oh my gosh!
But it did that, and then I commanded it to go back to where it was before, and it went right back. So I can raise and lower the temperature of my Nest thermostat from upstairs in my bedroom just by speaking to my Google Home.
That's cool.
Can it make you toast?
Not yet, but it will get there one day.
Man, I just want warm toast when I get home from work. Is that so much to ask?
A little bacon in the morning, maybe, perhaps.
Yeah.
So I really like it. It's a lot of fun. Like I said, watching Charlie just interact with it, and as soon as he gets a song to come on, he dances and goes crazy, and wants it to tell him the weather and the cow noises. It was a lot of fun. As far as the rest, the week was fine. Otherwise, just kind of normal stuff. We had a pretty chill weekend. I did finish Parks and Rec this last weekend, and there's a song by Willie Nelson in that called "Buddy," and for some reason that song's been stuck in my head now. And Charlie likes "On the Road Again" by Willie Nelson. Anytime we get in the car, he asks for that. So even though I'm not a country guy, I listen to a little Johnny Cash, some of the older stuff. I've been listening to a few Willie Nelson songs in the last day or two, and so that's kind of been going on. But the big thing is, Steve, we started Stranger Things last night and watched the first 2 episodes.
Podcast mic drop.
Yep. So,
and what do you think?
I'm loving it. It was midnight last night when we finished the 2nd episode, and I turned to Brita and I said, "So can we watch another one?" And she's like, "It's midnight. We've got to work in the morning." I was like, "Oh yeah, dang it, work interfering with my life." But
to keep you on the edge of your seat was a little spooky.
A little bit. But I kind of knew that it was going to be kind of like a X-Files mixed with kind of like E.T. kind of feel to it.
Yeah.
So I kind of expected that a little bit. Josh, have you seen Stranger Things yet?
No, I haven't. It's definitely on my list of things I want to watch. Like you and Brita, Steph and I have been also for me, rewatching Parks and Rec. Steph hasn't seen it all the way through. She's seen bits and pieces, but that's kind of been, as far as TV, the main thing we're watching together is Parks and Rec. I think we're on season 3.
Okay. Is that something you think Steph would watch, or is that something you think she might not watch and you could just move on and watch it on your own when you've got time?
She hates anything that's remotely scary. I love X-Files and Supernatural and shows of that. So I think I would love Stranger Things, but I don't think there's any chance she'll watch it with me. It'll be something I'll watch on my own.
Well, you should get on it. I'm recommending it, and I've only seen 2. It was good.
There you go.
So
there you go.
Anyway, that was my week. Good times. Steve?
You know what time it is, Spence.
I know what time it is. Let's get to it.
Let's get to it.
It's time for some Rebel Intelligence. I always have to let you know, Steve, that many Bothans died to bring us this information.
Rest in peace, you Bothans.
All right, Steve. So we are into our favorite topics, the Rebel Intelligence, the news. What do you have for us this week?
The one that I wanted to talk about was one that I saw. That's a news article that kind of hits home to me. Just 2 months ago, I took my 4 children to go see Ringling Brothers Barnum and Bailey Circus, the greatest show on earth. And we were a bit chagrined to hear that the elephants are no longer part of the show. But that's, it's good. PETA and all the rest have their way. So they're at some reserve down in Florida, but it was only foreshadowing for the article that came out this week that said that after 146 years in business, they are actually shutting down in May. And so I was kind of happy and sad to see it, bittersweet, but I'm glad that I was able to take my kids to go to the show, to go to the circus and kind of have some old school entertainment.
Well, let me ask you, did you ever go to the circus as a kid?
Heck no.
See,
my parents didn't love me enough.
Yeah, I never went either, and I know obviously Josh didn't go as a kid either because we would have been there together.
Well, we did come to visit you occasionally.
Yeah. So that I saw the thing too about the Ringling Brothers Circus shutting down after 146 years, and I think a big part of that, besides the fact that the elephants, left like a year and a half ago, 2 years ago, whatever it was. I think it's a generational thing. Like you would go to it if you went to it when you were a kid, and if your family took to it. If not, there's just so many other forms of entertainment out there anymore.
Right.
The idea of going and seeing acrobats and contortionists and the elephants and just, maybe not doesn't hit everyone the way it used to, 50, 60 years ago.
No, absolutely. And this is one thing that I mentioned to my wife is that after we went, we went away from the show. It was a 2-hour show. I mean, it was amazing because you were in this big theater. It was in Rosemont Horizon where Hulk used to wrestle out here in Chicago. And oh yeah, step into a Slim Jim. But what was cool about it is they would have a show on the floor, and suddenly they would it would go dark, and they would direct your attention above, and so you're watching this whole thing above the whole time, like totally distraction. They have the stuff on the floor being changed and the new set coming in, and then suddenly boom, it goes dark above, and you look down below, and so the whole show just keeps going. And what was amazing about it was that there was no CGI. There was no green screen. There was not these people. I mean, there was one part with the ice, so it was all on ice. The ice was on fire, and it was real fire, and there were people on stilts that were on skates that were skating around, hitting trampolines, these like high-powered trampolines on skate stilts, doing flips in the air and landing them and keep skating. I was like blown away. I mean, there were things that they were really doing them. So there was like real skill, real talent, and it was like it was real entertainment, right? It wasn't just computer-generated crap. It was amazing. And so I walked away being like, that was amazing. I was actually legitimately, genuinely blown away.
How did the kids react to it?
The kids, how they react to it. I mean, they loved it. I mean, it was nonstop entertainment, and they had the guys, that they get in the ball of death with all like 8 motorcycles, which how they don't hit each other is beyond me. I have no idea. They had tigers. I mean, they had so without the elephants, the elephants were fun to see, but they didn't really do much. They just kind of walked around and they maybe stood on their hind legs or whatever. But the show was amazing, and the kids really loved it.
I don't believe that, because if Disney movies have taught me anything, and I've seen Dumbo a lot lately, they do a lot. They do balancing on the balls. They've got elephants that jump onto the other elephants.
They
They make
fly
an
with their
elephant
big
fly.
ears.
Yes.
No, so what was funny though is when they said that the elephants, were no longer there, they have this little video that they show to make everybody feel good about where the elephants are. They're like, they're on this wonderful reserve down in the central Florida that's 200 acres. I'm like, what? Like 200 acres? That's like nothing for like all the elephant. They had a crap load of elephants, right? I'm like, 200 acres is like, somebody's backyard for an elephant. That's nothing. I'm like, I feel really bad for these elephants. They might as well be in a cage.
We have 5,000 elephants on 200 acres.
Exactly. It's like we have them in a parking lot of an old Sears, and they're just milling about. So.
Yeah, but they're using Craftsman tools, and that's quality, so they're
Actually,
okay.
Sears sold the Craftsman brand last week, oddly enough. So.
Yeah. Okay, so something I wanted to talk about, I saw in the news. There's been a lot of talk after the death of Carrie Fisher, what they're going to do. She'd filmed everything she was filming for episode 8, but we don't know what the story's going to be and if she's going to be involved in episode 9. And Lucasfilm, because there's been a lot of rumors and speculation, they have come out and officially declared that they are not going to digitally recreate Carrie Fisher in any way for episode 8 or 9, for anything, that they're basically just going to, they're not going to try to dishonor her memory, basically, by trying to do that and shoehorn her in. So that means maybe there's got to be some creative writing to kind of, write around her or write her out of the story. I don't know. That's all speculation. But I really did find it, what's the word?
Honorable?
Honorable, respectful, maybe, that they, this is someone that was part of their family, that they loved her, and then they're not going to try to do anything that would dishonor her memory in any way.
Right, and I think this is a smart move on a couple different levels. I mean, yes, as far as being fair to her memory and honoring her, like you said, but then also, I think the whole point of these newer Star Wars movies, especially with The Force Awakens, is kind of a passing of the torch, so to speak. Yeah, The Force Awakens did have Han and Chewie and all these old classic Star Wars characters that we grew up with. But by introducing all these new characters, I think ultimately the plan is to pass the torch on to them and let them be more the focus of these newer movies.
Sure, it has to be. I mean, no one wants to continue to see Harrison Ford at his age, trying to be Han Solo forever.
My mom would beg to differ, actually. No, I wonder though, Spencer, Josh, I don't know if you know, was this a decision by Disney or was it a decision by Carrie Fisher's estate?
It's a decision by Lucasfilm.
Okay.
Well, I mean, which is owned by Disney, but it was their choice.
Okay. So. I just wonder if someone, whoever is the executor of Carrie Fisher's estate was like, you know what, Carrie Fisher's children or whoever, want her to be in it, and they're like, no, we don't.
I would assume that Lucasfilm would have full creative rights if they wanted to use Princess Leia in any form. I'm sure imagine. They could.
Sure, yeah. Well, then with them wielding all the power, then yeah, I think it's a good move. It's praiseworthy.
Yeah, it's the right call, hands down.
Yeah,
it's the right call.
What else do we have in the old Rebel Intelligence bin?
Well, so a while ago we talked about some of our favorite time travel movies, and I mentioned Terminator. Well, James Cameron, who created the Terminator series, he's making this docu-series about kind of like the evolution of science fiction and how it's evolved from, certain types of stories and how it's kind of impacted, I think, the real world. And I tell you what, I don't know that I've seen many James Cameron films or anything by James Cameron that I haven't liked, although I wasn't very high on Avatar, and I will continue to say I wasn't a very big fan of that. But almost everything else he has done, I've been in love with. So I'm interested to see what this docu-series is going to be about. Nice. And what he's going to cover. So that's kind of cool. I mean, he's going to show, like artificial intelligence and, all sorts of stuff. So
very cool. One thing, I don't know if you guys have seen this, but kind of going along with the Star Wars theme, Mark Hamill has been reading
Yes.
Donald Trump's tweets
Oh yeah.
in the Joker's voice. Have you guys heard those?
Oh, so perfect.
What are your
Yes.
thoughts?
So I love the fact that he's done this, because if you just read the tweets and you don't know who the author of the tweet is, it sounds like dialogue that would have been written for the Joker. And so I think it's perfect.
What about you, Josh? What do you think?
Oh, yeah. A coworker of mine pointed it out to me, and I listened to that first tweet where he's talking about destroying his enemies and how he
Right.
lost so badly, and that evil Joker voice. It's hilarious. And politics. I don't care what side you're on. It's fun.
I hope he continues to do more of it. I really do.
It's great. Well, and it really just kind of pokes fun at the fact that you're right, Josh, that the dialogue is literally set to a Joker-like character, right? Some maniacal. You can just picture it, and as he adds in the laughs and the kind of the menacing, it really hits it on the head, and it's a lot of fun.
Yeah, I'm in love with it. I think it's great. I want more of it. Give me more. I can't get enough.
The Trumpster, is what it's called. The Trumpster.
Yeah, the Trumpster.
Yeah.
The last thing I wanted to bring up, the Game of Thrones is, a massive, huge show, and Peter Dinklage, who is the actor who portrays Tyrion Lannister, which I'm a huge fan of Peter Dinklage's work. He's up for a role in the Avengers Infinity War movie, and I don't care what he plays. If he's in this movie, the movie's going to be better. I don't know if you guys are big fans of Peter Dinklage or know him very well, but everything he's in, he's just a great character actor. He reminds me in a way of, oh gosh,
An
Tootsie.
Angry Elf?
Yeah, an Angry Elf. No, the actor who plays in Tootsie.
Dustin Hoffman?
Dustin Hoffman, yes, sorry, I don't know why I blanked that. But Dustin Hoffman's another one of these great character actors that he plays a role, and when he gets into it, like, you don't see Dustin Hoffman anymore.
Oh, absolutely.
You see the character. That is Peter Dinklage. Like, I don't see Peter Dinklage in this movie, or in Game of Thrones. I see Tyrion Lannister. So, whatever he's going to jump in and do, bang, I am on board. Let's do this.
So they haven't said like what his role is, right? They're just saying he's going to be
Nope.
a part of it. So we
Yeah,
don't
just
know
gonna
if
be
he's
a part of it.
We don't know if he's a villain or a hero or.
Yeah, no clue.
Okay, interesting.
I don't think it matters though. I'm excited. So
Nice.
So last week we had a lengthy conversation about board games and what board games were we wanted to recommend to some of you guys, and we asked you what are some board games that we should be looking into. And so we got some responses, and I want to get into those. The first through email is from Adam Bennett, and he says, my favorite game is Zombicide, a cooperative game where players work as a team of survivors to complete objectives and kill hordes of zombies using chainsaws, police cruisers, crowbars. He says it's great and definitely nerdy. So thank you, Adam Bennett, for that. We appreciate that. An email from Tim Rupert. He says, the kids have been loving Clue, the Great Museum Caper, and Sorry Sliders.
Yeah,
he says, I would love...
Sorry Sliders is one that my kids really love. It basically, you're almost like playing like shuffleboard, where you kind of have these sorry-like pieces that have little marbles in the bottom, and you can roll them. And so you roll them down this like bowling alley type thing into the center part of the board, and you try to knock other sorry players off the board.
So is the point of the game to prepare people to retire to Boca Raton?
Absolutely.
So it is. It is just like
4 to 6 players and 65 or older.
I mean,
Nice.
but it is just a version of Sorry then.
No,
I guess so.
no, it
No?
actually has nothing to do with the original game.
Okay,
It's-
because
yeah.
whenever my kids are like, "Hey, Dad, do you want to play Sorry?" I'm like,
Oh.
I
You're
have
like,
laundry to do."
I
sorry.
could do that, or I could stick a hot needle in my eye, and I think
Oh,
I'd
my
rather do
My
that.
goodness, I do not have the patience for that.
Right there,
Yeah.
I hate that game. Oh my gosh.
Yes.
So moving on, John Darden, a friend of ours,
What's up, John?
also emailed, and he's Richard.
Yes. we call him Richard.
Yeah. Anyway, John says Splendor, which I actually kind of talked about. He says he just got it. It's really fun. He also said Ticket to Ride, Settlers of Catan, and we've kind of talked about those as well.
Yeah.
My mother-in-law, Chris Gifford, had emailed me, and I'm going to have to just pick out one or two real quick because the email was rather lengthy. They like to play a lot of games, and so she'll just she understands that like not all of this will make it onto the podcast, but she likes to, give me a thorough rundown. She said there's a game called Oddly Obvious, and it's a card game where I guess on the back of the card there's like 10 words that are written on it in different colors, different fonts, and different directions, some horizontal, some vertical, whatever. And on the other side of the card there's 5 clues, and the person that picks it up reads the clues on the back one at a time, and the first person to shout out the right word gets a token, and whoever has the most tokens after 5 clues for the card gets the card. First to 5 cards wins.
Nice.
And then the other thing she talked about was
how she's going to kick your trash next time she plays you in any game. What was that? No, is that why it was lengthy email?
No, and I don't know that that's true either.
There was a lot of death threats in that email, is what I heard.
She talked about the game Smartass, which I've played with her before. It's a kind of a who, what, where. You have an answer, and you have 10 clues, and you go through the clues one at a time, and everyone that's guessing only gets to guess once. And if you guess once and you're wrong, you're out. And then you read the next clue, and the clues progressively get easier. And we've played that, and you move your little piece around the board if you get it right, and you get to roll.
That's a great game.
That's a lot of fun. I really, really, really love that.
We actually have the censored version, so we took it, and my wife took little pieces of paper and wrote butt on it, and then she put it over yeah, that's right. We did that. It really happened.
That's okay. My wife plays a card game that they call Heck of a. So.
Oh, very nice.
Go figure.
Nice. So, okay, let's move over to Facebook. Jim Windleborn responded and said Pandemic. It's a great cooperative game. I've never played it, but Steve, you've played it before, right?
I have, and it is from the same makers as Forbidden Island, which is it's a similar type game, and great game, easy to learn, and though I've not been able to stop the outbreak on Pandemic, it continues to kill off the entire world. So,
nice.
Don't put me in charge.
Moving over to Twitter, I got a response from John at SirJohn11, and he said, Risk, Stratego, and Uno are my favorites. And I want to say, Josh and I have played many, many hours of Stratego together.
Yeah, we have. That's a classic game. We used to go over to our grandparents' house and pull that one out, and I think it was from the 1940s. And but I was actually having a little interaction with John on the old Twitter sphere, and I was telling him he has to get on that Uno Attack. Much better version of Uno, in my opinion.
Is that the one that has that rotating death arm that just shoots all of them out? Oh gosh.
Yeah. And you never know if when you tap the button if you're going to get 1 card, 0 cards, or 13 cards.
Exactly. Yeah. You have half the deck. Piece of crap.
Yeah.
So thank you so much for answering the question of the week. We appreciate that. Once again, we love our community interaction, so thank you. Steve, one last note to follow up our conversation last week for board games. Fireball Island is currently in a complete set on eBay for $123.
All right, so now you know what to get me for my birthday suit. What?
It's still... Wait, for your birthday suit?
No. That's
what?
Whoa. Hey, we made a deal a long time ago that we're not going to see that birthday suit from you ever again.
Yes.
Not even with the bow tie?
Especially not with the bow tie.
Towel? Or a little bathroom towel? Huh?
Yes. A long time ago in a land far, far away.
Anyway, it's got 5 days left, so take a look, make your bid, and try to win your Fireball Island.
Are there any bids on it now?
There's 9 bids, actually.
Of course there are, because it's a freaking awesome game.
Yeah, so I've actually looked, and I think you could probably piece together a set, because some people just sell the box, some people just sell the board, some people sell the marbles, some people sell the cards, some people sell the tokens.
Some people sell their body to the night. What?
Yeah, right, but you probably could You probably could get it if you really, really wanted it. How badly do you want it?
I mean, pretty badly.
Steve,
Yeah.
do you still have that Xbox that we all pitched in for your wedding?
Yes, I do,
You
actually.
could you could always put that on the old Craigslist and get $10 towards your board game.
No, that is a cool story. I always tell people, I say, the coolest wedding gift I ever got was an Xbox for my best men, and they're like, "That's the coolest thing ever! What a great idea! I should totally do that." I'm like, "Yeah, if you want to like start a fight right when the people get married, here on your honeymoon, use this. I'm sure your wife won't mind."
No.
I guess it depends on your wife.
That's true. That's true. So I'll think about Fireball Island.
It's there. I just wanted to mention it. Just wanted to bring it up. Thought you'd like to see that.
Nice.
Anyway, so this week was a really big announcement from Nintendo. They announced the Nintendo Switch, and we wanted to talk about this this week because it's a big thing. It's happening. It's all over the place. Everyone's going to be talking about it, and I wanted to kind of talk about some of that, and then talk about some of our old school memories of Nintendo, because obviously Nintendo tries to go for the casual or the family type of gamer, and they've been doing kind of family games forever, it seems like.
Yeah.
So they had the big announcement. Steve, did you get a chance to watch any of the presentation?
Yes, I did.
Okay, so I actually went over to Josh's house to watch the presentation, and we were kind of watching it and watching some live commentary on some friends of ours. Bobby Pauls and Sean Capri were running live commentary on their site through YouTube, and we were watching that and interacting.
What's up, Bobby and Sean?
So
was that the site If We Ran Nintendo?
If We Ran Nintendo.
Yeah. Because they should after that presentation. That's all I can say.
Okay, so let's get into this thing because there's a lot to talk about. I first want to ask you this question. Do you think doing a live presentation in Tokyo and using translators in English is a good idea?
Hey, no. Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. That was the most painful thing I have ever sat through. I thought it was like a Japanese timeshare presentation. What the crap?
My favorite was when the one guy jumps on stage and he kind of does this Kia! Hiya! Hiya! And the translator goes, "Oh, hey." That's it! It was like deadpan. "Oh, hey."
Well, I've been thinking about this a lot over the last couple days because when I first watched it, I was kind of thinking the same thing. I was like, oh man, this is such a train wreck. And as I've listened to half a dozen podcasts where they've been talking about this and then talking with friends, a couple things that I've kind of pulled out that should be noted. Yes, it probably wasn't designed for the Western audience. I'm sure to us it was bizarre. I mean, we were joking about the guy's high water pants and
and his Bill Cosby sweater.
Yeah. So it was to us it was odd. But to the Japanese audience, they're generally not the hooting and hollering type. I have a friend of mine who's really into UFC. And he says that whenever UFC goes to Japan, that you'll have this epic fight, and these guys are just duking it out, and the crowd, maybe afterwards will just be a little, just a light little clap. They're not like us when you go to a Bulls game where you're screaming so loud that afterwards you've lost your voice. So it's a different crowd, it's a different atmosphere, it's a different culture. So I'm trying to pad this a little bit and be nice. It was weird, but
if you think if they are truly a global company, I mean, you would think that, I mean, somebody in, I don't know, their marketing department would say, hey, maybe we could get translators that had some, I don't know, energy to their voice, maybe some dynamic personalities. I mean, if you're the CEO, you hire an actor for you to play you because you are not that entertaining.
Wouldn't you think that it would have been scripted out so they could have had the translators at least look at the script ahead of time?
Exactly.
And then just adjusted for some, ad-libbing?
I mean,
that's what I thought.
I mean,
And
okay.
I was just saying, Nintendo's their past presentations. One of the things that they've been knocked on is that over the years they don't generally do these live presentations, and I think the reason is that they're not very good at it. They do a lot of these things. Well, they do a lot of these. They do what they call Nintendo Directs, which are more kind of what you're talking about is more of a staged, pre-recorded kind of production where they have Nintendo of America will make ones that are for us, whereas this was for them kind of going out of their comfort zone, and I mean it did show. It was hard to watch at times, and I'm a huge Nintendo fan, and I was honestly bored a few times. Kind of found my mind just drifting all over the place, and I don't know. I'm excited enough about the hardware and just about Nintendo in general that I'll give the presentation a pass. But yeah, the presentation wasn't good.
Yeah, for me, it was up and down. Like, there was exciting parts to the presentation, and then there was boring parts. And every time they would like transition, the guy would always say, "Okay, now it's time to switch." And yeah, he would do that. Switch, snap, switch. And it was fine, but eventually I was like, "Let's stop doing this, please. Let's switch to something else."
Well, and I felt like, their introductions to the games, I mean, I literally felt like they were reading from the game's manual. Like, here is what button X does, and here is what I'm like, come on, man.
Yeah, I know a lot of people got bored with when they were. There's a game that a game called 1-2 Switch, which is kind of supposed to be their introduction to the hardware. And one of the things they're talking about is
kind of like the Wii Sports, right?
Yeah,
with
right.
The Wii. Yeah.
Right, and they were talking about how you can hold the controller, they call it the Joy-Con, in your hand, and there's a game where you have to guess, how many ice cubes are in a glass type thing. And that was a really boring description. However, everything I've heard since the presentation was that it's got this feature called HD Rumble that everyone says it's actually the people that have actually played with the tech said it's amazing. They just didn't do a good enough job of describing it and selling it. But once it's probably one of those things that you really need a hands-on demonstration, that just somebody saying, "Hey, you can guess how many ice cubes are in a glass when you're holding this thing," probably doesn't really sound like, "Ooh, yeah, I got to go spend $60 on this."
Right.
Well, when you think about when the Rumble Pack first came out, like, that was a big thing, right? You're playing GoldenEye or whatever on the 64, and it's like a big deal, right? And so I can imagine that this is probably equally as revolutionary.
Yeah, I remember when the Rumble Pack came out. It was packed into, I believe it's Star Fox 64.
Yep.
And
yep.
I've since ever since Spencer sold my Nintendo 64 in college,
you gave that crap
for
to
pizza
me.
Money.
You gave that to me, by the way.
I let you borrow it, but anyways.
I remember that decision,
years,
actually.
Man.
I was supportive of that decision.
For pizza. Oh boy. Anyways, probably about 2 years ago, I bought back a Nintendo 64. And I bought back the Rumble Pack, and that thing is heavy and clunky, but you put it in and you play Star Fox or you play GoldenEye, and by today's standards, it's okay, the thing shakes like crazy. But that was a big deal at the time.
You got like a hand massage. You feel like rejuvenated.
So let's take a step back real quick, because I want to get into the hardware. Let me explain what the Nintendo Switch is to those maybe that are listening to this podcast who might not know. Nintendo's coming out with a brand new console, and this console is going to have the ability to sit in a docking station in your home and connect to your TV, and you can play, or you can take it out of the docking station and take it on the go with you. So if you're taking a train or a bus for public transit, you can be playing at home, take it and then go with it, or take it on vacation, and then whenever you get somewhere, you can actually take the little controllers off the side of the Nintendo Switch and use them, or hand one to a friend, and that person can then join you. The little tablet has like a little kickstand, so you can prop it up. So it's a home console that can also be portable. So that's what we're talking about with the Nintendo Switch, if you're unfamiliar. So let's talk about the hardware. Josh, you were taking a look at the battery life. Did you get a definitive answer on what the battery life was?
What they said in the conference was that it'll last 2.5 to 6 hours, depending on the game. I know that's kind of a wide range, but 2.5 is supposed to be the minimum that'll last. I think that's okay. It's not great, but considering everything that is going on to run a game, and honestly, I can't think of, at least from my end, I can't think of many times where I would be away from a plug for 2.5 hours. If I'm playing that on the toilet for 2.5 hours, we got issues.
Ooh, yeah.
Issues by the meaning hemorrhoids, yes.
Yes. Well, I mean, I could think maybe being on an airplane would be longer, but I mean, there's always battery packs you could use and whatnot, for that sort of situation. So I don't know, like 2.5 to 6 hours of battery life. That sounds pretty good to me for for mobility.
I honestly don't think it's bad at all.
Yeah.
I saw that they have the screen size is like 6.2 inches, and that it is touchscreen and 720p resolution. So the screen's going to be fine. Like, you're not going to have to squint to see things, right?
Right. Well, and a 720p resolution on a 6-inch screen is pretty darn impressive. It's everything I can tell from watching it on YouTube videos and just from reading impressions of people that actually have had hands-on experiences. They say it's just it just runs beautifully when you see them play it on the TV, and then when they undock it and then play it on the tablet, it's pretty seamless. You're not seeing at least in the games that I've seen, you're not seeing slowdown or a major graphical downgrade. I know there are tons of rumors going around before it came out saying that it could potentially chug on the tablet and really slow down. And everything I'm seeing so far, I'm not seeing that to be the case.
Yeah, it's looked good to me when I've seen it. Something else I was wondering about was, like, I know they talked about storage size. Steve, did you see how much the storage was on it?
Yeah, I saw it was. I think they had the was it the SD card that they have, and so it was a 32 gig. And one of the articles that I read, kind of lambasted that, being that if you downloaded a version of Zelda, that the download and the install would take half of your storage space.
So I looked at that too, but I saw an update on that article. So it's 32 gigs of internal storage, and then it has the expandable micro SD storage slot. And they said that it can support up to like a 2 terabyte SD card, which doesn't exist right now.
Right.
Which I'm sure it will. But what I did read is the taking up half the space is only if you purchase the digital version of the game.
Exactly.
Right.
So for me, I like to have the physical games for a lot of things like this. So if I bought the physical little disc that goes in it, it may still take up some space for any sort of downloads and patches, but it doesn't sound like it's going to take up half of the internal memory.
Right, and micro SD cards are definitely becoming cheaper and cheaper. You can get a 128 gig one for about $40. So you can pretty cheaply expand your memory. And like you're saying, if you get it on the cartridge, that's not going to be a problem. This is really more for people that are wanting to go purely digital downloads. That if that's the way you're going to go, you're going to need to expand that storage. But I think people are going into it knowing that.
Right. So the Nintendo Switch is going to cost $299. Josh and I talked about this some, and Steve, you tell us what you think as well. Josh, I think as Josh, Steve, I think $299 I think that price point's fine, considering that it's a home console that you can also take portable, and what they're trying to do, and they're incorporating pretty much all the past technology from other systems, and then they're also incorporating some new things with the I know that they have some like sensors that detect like depths and whatnot, how far away you are from an object, and then the idea of some of the HD rumble. I think $299 is a fair price. What do you guys think?
Oh, I was going to say, as a casual gamer, of which I am, I would say that that's probably a little bit on the high end, and I say that not because the technology isn't worth it. I mean, I think everything Josh has talked about the HD Rumble and a lot of the new playability, the multiplayer. I think it's phenomenal, but the fact that when you buy this console, it doesn't come with anything. No games is kind of a big thing for me, just as a casual gamer. I mean, something to at least try. And I know that most of the games obviously are going to be fairly expensive, but there were a few games that I read about that are kind of like their starter games. I think I don't know if it's 1-2 Switch or if it's another one called
Arms?
not Arms,
Oh,
Snipper.
snipper clips?
Yeah, Snipper Clips. Like that's like a $20 game. They could have thrown that in. I mean, just something to at least so you could kind of play, plug and play and just have something
To
to kick
to
off
be
with.
fair though, most new consoles that come out haven't bundled a game for years and years. The last one was the Wii with Wii Sports, and that was really only to kind of get you used to the new technology. Prior to that, I mean, it hasn't. I mean, Microsoft doesn't do that. Sony doesn't do that when a brand new console launches. So I mean, just to be fair, that's not very common in the industry anymore. It's been a long time since that's been a common practice.
Well, and I've been kind of so up and down. This has kind of been a roller coaster ride for me on my feelings on the Nintendo Switch. I've had every Nintendo console. I will purchase the Switch. Whether I probably won't get it right at launch, but that's more because I'm having my fourth child and my wife will be on maternity leave and yada yada
Right,
yada,
right.
right? Um, but I'm still, planning on, scraping my pennies together and getting one. But to Steve's point, it's not cheap. It's not as easy to get into like maybe years ago when the Wii was so wildly popular. People could pick up a Wii. It came with Wii Sports. They didn't. I mean, there are definitely all these other accessories they could get, but they didn't really need to get them. The grandma that buys the Wii for when the kids come over wasn't going to buy all these crazy accessories. Whereas when I look at the Switch and I start adding together all the things that I want, I'm looking at $500-$600
Yeah.
worth of stuff. And now, granted, this is extra stuff. I want to get the Pro controller, which is your more typical PlayStation, Xbox looking controller. I want to get that.
Which runs
I
about
want to get
$70, doesn't it, Josh?
yeah, I think that's a little on the high end. I would have wanted to see it probably more around 50. Um, but it is what it is. I also really, really, really like the fact that you can buy extra docks. They're $90, which I've heard some people say, hey, $90 is really expensive for something that's basically just an HDMI port. And then I've heard um, other people, Nathan, for example, over on Play Some Video Games. I was listening to their podcast today, and he's a tech guy, and he was saying, hey, if you get a docking station for a computer, he said that's a couple $100. So he didn't think $90
Right.
was that bad of a deal. But I really like the idea that I can, if I buy an extra dock, I can play it on my upstairs or downstairs TV. And as someone that's an avid gamer, there are certain times where I generally like to play downstairs in my basement, but there are some times where maybe my toddler will be taking a nap upstairs and I want to kind of be close by for when he wakes up or whatever, and so I'll play something on the upstairs TV. So I think that's a really nice thing to have. But for the casual gamer, yeah, they're not going to be like, hey, we need to get extra docks. We need to make sure we can play this on every TV in our house or whatever.
And in the bathroom.
And in the bathroom. Hey, this hybrid console is something that makes me wish I took public transportation to work, because I would be playing this to and from every day. It's probably not safe to play while I'm driving, though.
Probably not.
I mean, we could try, but
I'm looking at the cost. This is my take on it. $299 I think is reasonable, and I'll tell you why. I think with the new added tech that it's adding, you got to remember the Wii, which came out years ago, price point was $250 at launch. The Wii U was like $300 or $350 at launch, depending on which version you got, which was just basically extra storage. It's cheaper than the launch price of the Xbox One and cheaper than the launch price of the PlayStation 4. So it falls in between the kind of current generation stuff that's at the high end. It's a little more expensive than the Wii. So yeah, if it was $250, maybe more casual gamers, grandmothers maybe, would pick that up. But I don't think $299 is super unreasonable. I think where you do get into problems is like what Josh said. If you want the extra stuff, an extra dock is $90, a Pro controller is $70. If you want another Joy-Con, which is the two controller halves and the little charger that's got the little rumble and everything in it, that's like $80 for one of those.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's going, the accessories is where it's going to get to be a problem. Now, one last thing I want to talk about in the hardware though real quick was, I don't know if you guys saw, but you can get like different colors of Joy-Cons. Like you can get red ones or blue ones, and I think they maybe showed some other ones you can purchase. And I definitely think that for the people that are into like collecting things, colors is a big deal. For me, I don't care. Just give me the slate gray and black. I'm good. But for some people, colors is an awesome thing.
Yeah.
Right, and this is nothing new for Nintendo. I mean, you go back and you look at the Nintendo 64 controllers and
The blue and the red, the green.
Yeah, and as someone that, in the springtime, I like to go out and hit garage sales trying to find retro games. You find all kinds of different colors of things. One thing I wanted to bring up before we move off the price point is you have to also realize with this $299 price that this is a price that is really aimed towards the hardcore gamers, the guys that are going to be the day one purchases, right? The guys that are pre-ordering, that are lining up, getting it to go right now. Because a console coming out in March is not your typical time for a launch. This was more a product of the fact that the Wii U was not doing well and that they scrapped it before probably their probably initial plans of its life cycle. So the thing I would keep in mind is that there's probably a good likelihood that come holiday time, as they want to get those Christmas dollars, that it's probably going to be primed for maybe a $50 price drop or even a pack-in game. I wouldn't be surprised by that in the least bit to try and to appeal to those families that maybe at the 300 with no game they're not interested, but you put it at 250 or you throw in Mario or something else that maybe then they'll be willing to jump on it.
Yeah. I pre-ordered it. I went out to Best Buy the next morning and I pre-ordered it, partially because I've got Best Buy gift cards that I'm going to be able to use to pay for over half of it already. So it's not going to, cash out of my pocket is going to be, fairly cheap compared to, someone who has to pay full price. But I'm excited by it. I really like the idea of it. I skipped the Wii U because it did have problems and it did have some issues, and I'm looking forward to kind of getting back with Nintendo. It feels like an old friend that I'm coming home to see.
Yeah. I think overall the concept is really interesting. I think the technology is pretty exciting, and while I probably won't be a pre-order, I'll look forward to playing it definitely.
So there's a number of games that are coming out at launch, or close to it. I think the biggest game for this system is going to be Zelda Breath of the Wild. I mean, that's the one they're showing all over for everything on the advertisements. I think Breath of the Wild is going to sell this console for a lot of people.
Yeah, I just cannot wait to get my hands on Breath of the Wild. You hear a lot of people, especially on the internet, leave it to the internet to find people that want to complain about something and want to nitpick. I've seen a lot of people say, "Hey, there's no really good games coming out at the launch." And while there might not be, 20, 30 great games coming out at launch, the fact that we're getting a Zelda game, and a Zelda game that's been in the works for years and just looks amazing, that to me is good enough. Everything I'm hearing is that with this being the first true open world Zelda game, that it could take easily 100 hours of playtime to get through. So while I might not have, just a slew of games to kind of let my ADD go wild on as I go from one to another, having Zelda alone, in my opinion, makes this launch a success.
Yeah,
So in addition to Zelda, I did preview the Super Mario Odyssey. What are you guys' thoughts on that?
I want it. That thing looks awesome. Now, granted, it did say like holiday time, so like things are coming out at launch, like the 1-2 Switch and the ARMS, and shortly after launch, like the Mario Kart 8 Deluxe. Kind of what you kind of expected with the launch. But man, Super Mario Odyssey looks so good. I wish it was at launch, but Josh was right. He said to me, "You can't have Zelda
Yeah.
and Mario both being released at the same time. You got to space
Yeah.
them out."
Now that game, as it's set, in our world and whatnot. I mean, it looks just some really cool worlds that Mario's never been in before, and that he uses his hat as part of the playability of the game. I mean, it looks really interesting.
Right. Yeah, when they showed him jumping on his hat, a lot of people were geeking out over
Yeah,
that.
that was cool.
It's interesting though. I've heard a lot of backlash about the scenes where it shows him in, I think they call it New Donk City. The fact that he's supposed to be in kind of our world, like you were saying, whether that's actual gameplay or whatever that is, I don't know. It's not a big deal to me, but it is a little different than the norm of the Mario world. So I'll be interested to see kind of how that plays out. I'm not ready to make a judgment call on if that's a really cool thing or if it's just bizarre and kind of doesn't mesh with the Mario world. But either way, I am getting that game. I don't think there's ever been a Mario game that I've been disappointed in. Super Mario Galaxy is probably one of my top 3 games of all time. So, in any Mario game, I'm good with.
Yeah, I'm all over it. I can't wait. It's, $60 or whatever it will be when it comes, and it's $60 that Nintendo's going to get from me because I'm going to get it.
Right, and
Some
it's
of the
going to
other
push
stuff.
it's going to push consoles in the
Oh, for
Christmas
sure.
time. So
Well, and I think thinking about marketing, whether the price they've put it out high, like you said, for pre-orders and for hardcore gamers, they're going to kick it down there in the holidays. They're going to launch with Zelda. They're going to get all the pre-orders for that, and then they're going to swoop right in once that starts to kind of trail. Not that it'll trail that quickly, but then Mario will come right out. So
right, well, and Zelda's definitely a game that is. It's not like it's an adult oriented game, but it's a game that's going to appeal more to an older crowd, whereas Mario is going to be a game that kids are going to clamor for. I know my oldest, who's 9, he loves any and every Mario game, and so having that come out around Christmas time, assuming it doesn't get delayed, which hopefully it won't, is, in my opinion, a great move on Nintendo's part.
So let's go over positives. What did you take away from this as positives about the Nintendo Switch?
the HD Rumble, I think is a huge positive. The playability, the multiplayer, obviously is huge. Portability is huge. Um, One thing that is a small positive, but I thought was a really cool feature. Did you notice when they were talking about the controllers that they've included like a screenshot button, and they're going to be able to also like not screenshot, but capture videos as well, so you can share it on like social media and share it among friends.
Right, and that's really cool. I actually on my PlayStation 4, I use that probably more than I'd like to admit. It is so nerdy.
You such a nerd.
I have a friend of mine who, we each have YouTube channels, and neither one of us really do much with the YouTube channel. It's pretty much we will just put gameplay footage and send it to, text it to one another like, hey, check this out. And it's that same mentality of when you were a kid in school and you're out on the playground and you're like, telling the kids about how you finally beat, Mario 3 or how you found, the warp whistle or whatever it is. And they're like, no, you didn't. Now you can be like, hey, check out this link to my YouTube page.
Suck it.
Yeah, I like that. Another positive I really thought was that Nintendo's finally getting on board with the voice chat, and that's been kind of lacking for them. And so it's good to see that they're doing that. Although I think you have to do it through a smartphone app. Is that correct?
Yeah, it is. To me, that's kind of both a positive, and I don't know if I'd say it's a negative yet, but it's definitely something that I want to see how it works. Now, I'll give you some background. Um I have for my PlayStation, I have a headset so I can do the chat. I don't for my Xbox One, and I was trying to play Halo 5 with a friend a couple months back, And since I didn't have a headset, we were like, hey, let's just chat through the phone. And the thing that really sucked about that is it was really hard to both listen to the dialogue of the game and then also talk to someone on the phone at the same time. So I'll be curious to see how this really works out, if it's if they've kind of refined it or if it's a little bit janky, because I am nervous about if I'm putting in earbuds or whatever that are connecting to my phone, then am I also going to be able, is the dialogue from the game going to come through there? I don't think it will. So that's a concern about how that'll actually work out.
Okay. Yeah, I mean that's a fair. I think it's a fair concern, right? So negatives. What would hold you back from going out and pre-ordering it or buying it?
The Bill Cosby sweater of the software developer.
Okay.
I couldn't get past it. I'm sorry. And the mom jeans from Shiteke Tayasaki. I couldn't get past the mom jeans and the weaved leather belt and the Michael Jackson penny loafers. I'm sorry, Japan. If you are ahead of us in fashion, then heaven help us.
For me, I don't think there's going to be anything that's really gonna stop me from wanting to go out and get it. But fanboyism aside, I think there are some things that have me concerned about, I guess, the health of the system, about whether people will go out and support it. Third-party support was definitely a big issue on the Wii U, meaning that all the classic Nintendo games were there. Well, I guess there wasn't really a new Zelda that got delayed, as now it's coming out. But you had your Marios, you had your Donkey Kongs, you had Zelda in the form of HD remasters. But as far as third-party games, when the Wii U came out, there was the Maddens and there was the FIFAs and there was Splinter Cell. But as soon as the system didn't sell well, all those third-party developers left Nintendo, and they said, "Hey, we're not going to make any more games for the Wii U." So I hope that doesn't happen again. I think EA Sports releasing FIFA is a good sign, but what I took from their messages when they came out and said, "Hey, FIFA's coming to Nintendo Switch," that was great, but what they didn't say was, "Hey, FIFA's coming and Madden's coming and NBA Live is coming." Now, if they would have said, "Hey, we're bringing everything over to the Nintendo Switch," that would have been to me a really good sign. The FIFA coming to me is a sign that they're testing the waters. They're going to see how it goes. If people buy in to the Switch, then yeah, maybe in a year you'll see, Madden or whatever, or Star Wars Battlefront, or any of these EA games. But right now they're kind of just dabbling their toe in, and they're going to see if they get any bites.
So my concern has nothing actually to do with kind of some of the bigger third party support. Although I do hope that they get good third party support, because I think that's really important for the longevity of the console. My concern is the virtual console, because there are some games that I missed on the Wii U, specifically the Wind Waker HD remaster, because I loved Wind Waker on the GameCube, and I want to be able to purchase these. And I haven't heard a lot about the virtual console, their kind of online store. I mean, I know you can purchase, in the current systems, you can purchase older games. I want to see a number of those games supported. If that happens, that makes me really, really happy. So that's a kind of a concern that I have. Now, that being said, would you recommend the Switch? I'm going to go ahead and say yes. I've already got it pre-ordered. I wasn't on Nintendo the last go round. I haven't had a console since the Wii, which I sold, so I haven't had Nintendo for a few years easily. But I'm on board with the Switch, and I would recommend, if you are a casual gamer or a hardcore gamer and you like Nintendo games, you like Mario, you like Zelda, this console is going to be a good thing. It's going to have some functionality that's going to be different from anything else you've ever done on a console. So I'm going to recommend it to people. Josh, do you think you would recommend it to people?
Well, I'll put it to you this way, and this might not be the most straightforward answer. Some friends of mine over Christmas time were saying, "Hey, we have a Nintendo Wii Do you think we should hold off our money for the Switch, or do you think we should get a Wii U? And initially I was like, oh, get a Switch all the way. Get the newest, get the latest, get the greatest. But where they were more on the casual end, what I ended up kind of talking out with them was, if you do get the Wii U now, buying it used and buying the classified ads, you can get a bundle full of games where if you haven't played them, they're new to you. So yeah, I mean, I would recommend the Switch, but probably to the hardcore gamer. To the casual gamer, I'd probably say, you know, take a wait and see approach. If you have to play Zelda, if you're like we are, where that is enough to hold you over for a little while, yeah, go out and get it. But with the launch only being, a handful of games, I would say hold off until Christmas time. There's probably going to be a price drop, like we said. I mean, I don't know for certain, but they're probably going to do something to try and keep the momentum going. So if you're a casual fan, I don't think there's anything wrong with saying, I'm going to kind of take a breath, kind of see what they do, see what other games come out, and like you said, Spencer, see if more comes to the virtual console or whatever they do, and then go ahead. But you put a gun to my head, yeah, get the Switch.
Okay. So if you have a gun to your head, Josh says go ahead and get the Switch.
Even if your wife's on maternity leave, you find a way to scrape those pennies and get that Switch.
Right. All right, Steve, what about you? Would you recommend the Switch?
So I am probably more of the Josh persuasion than the Spencer. Mine would be a yes. I would recommend it to a friend, and then I would go over to that friend's house and play it. There we go. No, I'd probably be a wait and probably be a late adopter of the Switch, just because again I'm more of a casual gamer. I'm not really playing a lot on the road or traveling or whatnot. So the portability for me probably isn't as big a selling point as for others. But definitely just the technology by itself, if we're going to get another game system, it probably will be the Switch, but it might not be for another 12 to 18 months.
Okay,
right,
fair enough.
Well, and just going back to the portability, for someone like me and Spence, for you too as well, the Switch being able to take that thing on vacation to me is
yep
amazing. I'll take a lot of times on vacation. I'll take a handheld, the Vita or the 3DS, and while I like them, I always miss having that more in-depth experience that you generally get from a console. So this is something that I'll pack it in in a backpack, and I'll take it on a flight with me or on a long car ride, and I'll play it in the hotel at night after the kids have gone to bed. I'm not gonna stay in the hotel while the kids are at Disneyland.
Exactly, that's what I was gonna say.
And play the Nintendo.
So we're on the beach in St. Lucius, and I'm playing this while the kids are out getting eaten by a shark.
Right. I'm not going to do that, but I'll definitely, bring it with me. And once everyone's in bed and asleep, I'll sacrifice my own sleep to get some time with the Nintendo.
So I'm the same way. Like I'm looking ahead of my schedule, and I know that I'm most likely going to be going on a trip with my motorcycle club this year up to Yellowstone, and that's like a week. And then I've got my 20-year high school reunion at the end of October. And so I'll be coming back to Chicago for that. And then probably Montana for Christmas. So I can definitely see taking the Switch with me and playing some Zelda or some Mario or Skyrim or whatever else, is currently on the system that I'm into for those vacations, as well as, obviously playing at home. So, like I said, I'm on board. I've already pre-ordered it. I ran out and did that first thing, so I'm ready to go. But we're talking about this new console that's coming out, and Nintendo actually released another console back in November. They released the NES Classic Edition. And Josh, you got one of those for Christmas, right?
Yeah, it was pure luck, because if you try and go in a store and get one of these things, I mean, good luck. I hope you can find one, but as far as, I can't ever seem to find them. It was one of those things where I was at work, and a coworker of mine who's also a gamer, we caught wind that there was a Target that had 50 of them that they just got in stock. And so I told him, I was like, hey, you want to go on our lunch break right now, drive up there and see if we can get them? And he said, yeah, let's go. So we hopped in his car. We drive up to the Target. Sure enough, they're gone. And then right next to this Target was a GameStop. We walked into the GameStop, and it was we almost sheepishly said, hey, do you guys have any NES Classics? And, the guy, it was almost like he gets asked this question like 300 times a day because he just started spewing out without even, skipping a beat. No, we don't have any. We don't know when we'll get any. And he kind of just goes through this whole spiel, right? So right as he's saying that, another person walks in the store. So there's 3 customers right now, myself, my coworker, and this other lady that walks in. She asks the exact same question. He starts to say the same thing, right? Right as that's happening, another GameStop employee walks out from the back holding a box in his hand. And he looks around and he's like, you guys are looking for the NES Classic? And we said, yeah. He said, how many of you are here in the store? And we look around, we're like, there's 3 of us. And he opens up this box and he's like, I just got a shipment of 3. So each of us got a NES Classic. It was pure luck. And let me tell you, if you want to have that kind of old school feel of playing those NES games, it comes with 30 games packed in. It's a ton of fun. And just recently, if I'm not jumping ahead, a Russian hacker has found a way to hack in to the NES Classic and make it so you can add additional games in the form of ROMs. So games that didn't come on the original NES Classic, like Tetris, are now on mine. So that's been a huge plus to go from 30 games that Nintendo chose to now I think I have, I don't know, 55 games on there. Games like Paperboy, Tetris, the original Contra, that weren't on there initially. So
see, not all Russian hacking is bad. Thank you, Putin.
That's right. Thank you, Putin.
Birthday present from Putin.
So I really wanted a NES Classic, because the thing is like fits in your hand, right? And it hooks up with an HDMI, so it'll fit to any of the new televisions. But one of the things I saw about this, and I saw because I went over to Josh's house, the cord for the controller is 2 feet long.
What? 3 feet. Come on, give it some credit, Spence.
2.8 whatever. It's not very long, so you've got to be up really close to play the thing. And if you've got a big screen TV, like I was watching Josh where he had to sit, and like he's like 3 feet from the television, and you got like a 60-inch television, you feel like you're probably in the front row of the movie theater trying to watch, a current movie, I would imagine.
Right, and that part of it definitely isn't ideal. I think they wanted to go for that same feel back when we were kids, where everyone sat, right up next to their TV because their TV was probably, 27 inches. Now, there are a couple ways that you can get around it. You can buy wireless controllers, which initially we had one wireless controller, but it broke after 2 weeks. So instead of getting another wireless controller, we just bought 10-foot extender cords, and that's been great. The only downside is, modern games like the Xbox, for example, the Xbox One, you want to turn on your console, you hit a button on your controller while you're sitting on your couch and it turns it on. That's not going to be the case with the NES Classic. You have to actually hit the power button to turn it on, like you would on an original NES. And then if you want to get back into the main menu to change games, you have to hit the reset button. So
you have to get up off your couch?
being the lazy Americans that we are, you're like, I guess I'll move 3 feet. But honestly, it's great, especially since we got those longer controllers, so I'm not sitting 2 feet from the TV. It's been a lot better.
I definitely think this thing hits the nostalgia market, and it costs $60, which is the price of a current game on any current generation, right, of any console. So for the cost of a single game now, you can get 30 games from your childhood. So let me ask you this, Josh. You've got it, and of course you used Putin's Russian hack to add more.
That's right.
Thank you, Putin.
Thank you, Putin.
What is your favorite NES game from like the original Nintendo back in the day when we were kids? What was your favorite game, and do you have that on your NES Classic?
I'd say my favorite game from when we were kids is probably Contra. It comes with Super Contra packed in. I did download the ROM for Contra, so it's on there now. But probably the two that I'm actually playing the most are Dr. Mario and Tetris. Um, Tetris to me is just an ageless wonder. It's simple enough that it doesn't need, great graphics.
And I'll tell you why
Um,
you're playing it right now. I know why. It's because when we were kids, we didn't get a chance to play Tetris.
That's right.
Because we would come home from school and Mom would be playing Tetris, and we'd say, "Mom, can I play?" And she's like, "No, no, no, go do your homework. Go do your homework." Mom, homework's done. Can I play? She's like, "No, no, no. I've almost got the rocket ship. Just let me a little bit longer, a little bit longer." And
I'll tell
so
you,
we didn't get to play it.
Tell you what, about a year or two ago, I was back visiting my mom at her house in Pennsylvania, and she pulled out some old NES cartridges, and sure enough, she had Tetris, but she didn't have a NES to play it on, so I went out to a retro game store and bought her, I think it was called a Retron 5. It's just a newer console, not made by Nintendo, but it'll actually play Nintendo, Super Nintendo, and Sega cartridges, and has plugins for all the controllers. And we played the mess out of Tetris at her house. And
Boom.
you want to see her get into
boom,
something, yeah. When they would start to pile up, oh, the stress. She would no.
I'll tell you why you both love playing Tetris. It's not because of any of that. It's because it's a Russian game, and Putin is brainwashing you with Tetris.
Thank you, Putin.
Thank you, Putin.
I actually still have my original NES. I also still have my original Sega, and I still have my original Sega Game Gear.
Wow.
The first colored handheld that kicked the trash out of the Game Boy.
So, Steve, what was your favorite NES game?
Gosh, there were so many. One of the ones that may not have been my favorite, but one that I liked a lot was Adventure Island. Do you guys remember that? You're like this little like Tongan dude, and you're running and you like jump on these eggs. You get like a skateboard. You go through the island.
I don't remember that, but hearing you talk about Adventure Island and then in board games, Fireball Island, I think you have a theme going with what you like in games. It's got to be set in Polynesia somewhere. There has to be some sort of angry god chasing you or rolling things after you.
That's right. So that was a good game. Josh mentioned Paperboy, which was always kind of a fun game as well. I love that game, man. What was it? TNC Surf Design was another great one.
Yes, that was one of the ones that I added.
Skate and Surf, and then there was another one. It was kind of like an X Games type where you could like ride your bike. There was a surfing one as well, but you could ride your bike and do all these like flips on these it was a side-scrolling game. I remember.
Excite Bike.
No, it wasn't Excite Bike. It was actually one that you were like pedaling. It was a BMX bike. I don't know. It was track and field or something like that, but. There were do you remember though? Like there was the Power Glove, and I know we've talked about that with the Fred Savage movie.
The Wizard.
Right?
Yep.
And then they had the Power Pad, and then they had the NES the NES Advantage. It was like that square thing with a joystick. They had all those different controllers. I remember the track and field. You'd have to like run on that like the running mat, the pad, and I could never do that. I was horrible at that. Probably because I was a fat kid.
Yeah, you were.
Bringing up some hard memories here. Why'd you have to bring it up, Josh? I was full of chocolate.
So, for me, my favorite NES game, gosh, it's really, really hard because there were so many good ones. But, I loved Super Mario Brothers 3. And I know a big part of that was how pumped I was when it was displayed for the first time to North American audiences in the movie The Wizard. That was a huge moment for me. I mean, I still just remember how much I geeked out about that. So Super Mario Brothers 3, but also Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 2, the arcade game.
Yeah.
I mean, that game, that was the one that, we played in the arcade. I remember we'd go over to a pizza villa over in DeKalb, and we'd go down into that little basement area down the 4 steps, and right as you got down the steps, bang, there's the Ninja Turtles arcade game. And I put so many dang quarters into that thing trying to play as Donatello all the way through.
Bebop, Rocksteady. Fladdle, you idiot!
I loved that game.
I was just playing that last night, and let me tell you, it is hard.
It is hard,
Yeah.
man.
I
It's
died
the swimming
at
one.
I died at the first boss, the big rhinoceros guy with the machine gun. I don't remember names, but
Bebop and Rocksteady.
Really? Trying to save April, right?
Yeah.
Yep.
Remember when you could hit the sewer lids? They'd throw the sewer and you could hit it back at them.
Yes.
Freaking great game.
I loved that game. So like those are like my two, but then I still have a game that like I can't beat, and I've played this game for like almost 30 years now. Kid Nicky Radical Ninja.
Yeah.
I don't know why that game is so hard for me, but every few years I get the itch because I will defeat this game before I die. It's on my bucket list. I have to. I just have to. It drives me up the wall.
Is there a Game Genie or Game Shark code for
it? No.
Oh my god.
Because I have looked.
The Game Genie.
I have looked, and there's not. But every few years I pull it out and I try to play it, and ultimately I get defeated by it, and then I just throw my controller down. I'm like, oh, stupid game. I'm never coming back to this again. And then a few years go by, and I'm like, dang it, I can't let this thing defeat me. Well, it's still kicking my trash after 30 years. I just want you guys to know that I hate that game and I love that game all at the same time.
You know, it's funny because you have games now where controllers have so many more buttons, there's so many more things going on, and you kind of get this idea in your head, well, all these old games will just be simple now. And you go back and play them, and at least my experience has been, I go back and play them, I'm like, man, I suck at them because it's just a total different experience. It's, so many games that are just, timing based, you know, and you have those two buttons on the NES, and they're not always, very forgiving.
Right.
To say
Very
the least.
slight movements. Very slight movements. I remember I was playing Contra, and I got to the end of Contra. I remember this. It was late one night. Parents had gone to bed, and you get to the end. Do you guys remember what the end boss was for Contra?
Isn't it it's like that heart, beating heart?
It was a pulsing heart. And so I was like freaked out because there's like this pulsing heart that starts to beat quicker and quicker, and it's like changed all these different colors. And then these little like spider things start coming out. I'm like, this is creepy. I beat the crap out of that heart. That's right.
I still remember, and gosh, I hope I get this right, but it says at the very end of the game, it says, congratulations, you've defeated the vile red falcon and saved the universe. Consider yourself a hero. And that's what it said when you beat the game. I was like, yes, I am a hero. Now I look at that and I'm like, what the crap? I was like, I just defeated this pulsing heart. And it's like, consider yourself a hero. I am a hero. I just defeated a pulsing heart of an alien.
No.
Don't try to tell me like you should consider yourself. Maybe. I mean, you could put it on your resume if you want.
One of the worst experiences I had defeating a game was the game Rampage. Do you guys remember that game?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, where you're like you're the lizard, you're the gorilla, you're the wolf dude, and you go around, you just like bust buildings down, right? And you eat people and all this stuff. So there's a whole map of the United States. I play this thing like all night. I pulled an all-nighter to beat this thing. I get all the way to the end, and it literally was just like, congratulations, and two little like fireworks go, ding, ding, and that's it. I'm like, what the freak? No, yeah.
It's like, congratulations, you've rescued the princess. But your princess is in another castle. You're like, no, come on.
Yeah, don't.
Or beating Mario 2 and it's all just his dream, That was
dream. I tell you.
I tell you what, I know that game gets a lot of hate, and I totally understand why. I loved that game as a kid, though. Like, for some reason, because it was completely different than the first Mario game. I loved it.
Wait, is that the one where the princess can fly?
Yep. Yeah, you can play as all four.
I love that one.
Yeah. Well, I don't think, and I know people are probably screaming at me, but I don't think it was initially supposed to be a Mario game.
No, it wasn't.
It's kind of like they just put the Mario skin over it kind of near the end of its production.
Really?
Yep. And that's why they made it a dream. Yeah, because there are a lot of things that don't really fit in the Mario world. I mean, throwing radishes at people wasn't exactly part of Mario.
The Shy Guys, there wasn't like the mushrooms. You also like all the bosses, you had to like jump and like step on the egg to like pick the egg up that they spit at you and then throw the egg back at them, and then you'd walk through a bird's mouth to complete the level. I mean, it's a little weird.
It was like
It's definitely different than hopping on the flagpole at the end of each level.
it was like the Yellow
Right.
Submarine version of the game, right? They just got all kind of
Yeah.
trippy. They're like, let's try this, man. Yeah, that'd be
Mario on shrooms.
Mario on radishes.
Dark side of the Mario.
That's going to be the title of this podcast, brother. Oh my gosh, good times.
The dark side of Mario.
Good
Yeah.
times.
So my question for our listeners, if you are still with us, is what is your favorite classic Nintendo game from the original Nintendo Entertainment System? What's your favorite game? Let us know. You can reach out to us. You can get us on our email, which is fortofnerd at gmail.com, fortofnerd@gmail.com, or you can get to us on Facebook, Fortress of Nerditude, or you can just look at the little at Fort of Nerd, and then Twitter at Fort of Nerd, and let us know what's your favorite classic Nintendo game. You heard from Steve and I and Josh what ours are, so let us know. A reminder, next week we're going to do our movie club. We're going to record, and we are watching The Magnificent Seven, so go ahead and watch that. We're going to bring Brita back. Brita's going to join us every month to do the movie club, and then we're also going to bring a guest on as well, and I've got a guest lined up. Steve, I haven't told you about this yet, but a friend of mine reached out, and he said he would love to do it, so we're
Awesome.
going to bring a guest on as well. So that's coming up. Josh, it was so much fun having you on, and I'm glad you're still here and that Steph hasn't had the baby yet, so that's awesome as well.
Did you turn your ringer on? She called like a half an hour ago.
Oh, well, I've been trying to get out, but the door's still locked,
Right,
so
okay.
that's the only reason I'm still here.
So if you want to reach Josh, you can find him on Twitter at cred_81.
Yes, indeed.
And he's worth a follow, I promise. I say that because I'm his brother, and contractually I am obligated to. However, I do follow him on Twitter, and he's a good guy to talk to. One of the best guys out there on the internet you will ever meet. So, follow Josh. Let's see here. Steve, we want more people to find the Fortress of Nerditude and join us as we discuss nerd and pop culture. How can they do that?
They can rate us on iTunes, so the Fortress of Nerditude isn't as hard to find as the NES Classic in a Target shopping center. It'll be a snap.
Good luck.
Folks, friends, may the force be with you. Always.
Done. How about that?
Woo!
All right.
I have to pass death.
Happy New Year to all, including to my many enemies, and those who have fought me and lost so badly, they just don't know what to do. Love.